I'm Ethan, and I've been married to my wife, Vanessa, for 15 years. We have a nice life, or so I thought. 2 kids, teenagers now, a cozy home, and a marriage that I thought was solid. Turns out, I was living in a lie. Vanessa is, how do I put this? She's fiery. Always the center of attention, charming, and confident in a way that can be intoxicating and exhausting. She's always loved to flirt, but I brushed it off as harmless fun. I trusted her, and I thought that was enough. A few months ago, things started to feel off. Vanessa's behavior changed subtly at first. She started going out more often, always with some vague excuse. Girls' night, work dinner, or running errands. She'd spend hours glued to her phone, giggling at texts and guarding the screen like it was a state secret. When I asked about it, she'd roll her eyes and call me paranoid. Ethan, not everything is about you, she'd snap. That shut me up. For a while. Then there was her appearance. Vanessa's always been gorgeous, but she suddenly started putting in extra effort. New clothes, frequent trips to the salon, lingerie I hadn't seen her wear at home. At first, I thought maybe she was doing it for me, trying to rekindle the spark. But when I suggested a date night, she brushed me off with a casual, "I'm too tired, Ethan. Maybe another time." I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. I wanted to believe her, to trust her, but the nagging doubt kept growing. I started paying closer attention, watching for any clues that might explain her behavior. And that's when I noticed the inconsistencies, the little lies that didn't add up. One night, Vanessa said she was meeting her friend Amanda for drinks. I texted Amanda later, just casually asking if they'd had fun. Her response? "I haven't seen Vanessa in weeks." Why? My heart sank. That was the moment I knew something was seriously wrong. But confronting her outright wasn't an option. Vanessa was quick on her feet, a master manipulator who could talk her way out of anything. I needed proof, something undeniable. So, I came up with a plan. Once Amanda's response confirmed my suspicions, I knew I had to stop second-guessing myself. Vanessa was lying, and I wasn't going to let her gaslight me into thinking otherwise. But I couldn't confront her without solid proof. She'd just spin it, make me the villain, and walk away unscathed. That's when I decided to install a hidden camera in our house. I hated the idea of spying on my wife. It felt sleazy, invasive, and completely out of character for me. But Vanessa had backed me into a corner. If she wasn't going to tell me the truth, I'd have to find it myself. I ordered a discreet camera online, the kind that looks like a regular phone charger. It arrived a few days later, and I set it up in the living room, a place Vanessa often hung out when I wasn't home. I didn't tell anyone, not even my kids. This wasn't something I wanted them involved in. For the next few days, I let the camera run, recording everything while I pretended not to notice Vanessa's increasingly shady behavior. She was out late more often, coming home with vague excuses and fake smiles. She didn't seem to realize that I was watching her every move. The breaking point came on a Friday night. Vanessa had once again claimed she was meeting the girls for drinks. She got all dolled up, tight dress, high heels, makeup that made her look like she was headed to a club rather than a casual hangout. I nodded, playing the oblivious husband, and said, "Have fun." As soon as she left, I pulled up the live feed from the hidden camera on my phone. It didn't take long. About an hour after she left, the front door opened, and in walked him. A tall, muscular guy with a cocky grin and an air of entitlement that made my blood boil. Vanessa wasn't far behind him, laughing and draping herself over him like a lovesick teenager. They didn't waste any time. He pulled her into the living room, and she practically jumped into his arms. They kissed passionately, his hands wandering all over her, and she didn't even bother to close the curtains. It was like she didn't care who saw them, as if I didn't exist. I sat there, staring at my phone, my heart pounding in my chest. Anger, betrayal, disgust. They all hit me at once, leaving me shaking with adrenaline. But I didn't stop watching. I needed more. I needed to see just how far she was willing to go. They moved to the couch, and it got worse. Clothes came off, laughter filled the room, and Vanessa's voice, the same voice that had once whispered, "I love you" to me, moaned another man's name. I felt sick. I wanted to throw my phone across the room, to drive home and drag that asshole out of my house by his neck. But I forced myself to stay calm. Confronting them in the moment wouldn't give me the upper hand. I needed to be smart, to gather everything I needed to make her pay for what she'd done. I saved the footage, backing it up in multiple places. There was no way Vanessa was going to weasel her way out of this. The proof was undeniable. But watching wasn't enough. I needed to confront her. And this time, she wouldn't be able to lie her way out. Vanessa came home late that night, around 1 a.m. I was sitting in the living room, pretending to watch TV, but really waiting for her to walk through the door. She was wearing that same tight dress, her makeup a little smudged, her hair tousled in a way that wasn't from the wind. She looked guilty, though she didn't know I already had all the proof I needed. "Late night?" I asked casually, keeping my voice steady. She froze for a split second, before recovering with a fake smile. "Yeah, Amanda and I stayed out longer than we planned. You know how it is." I nodded, biting my tongue to stop the torrent of accusations building inside me. "Sounds fun." "It was," she said quickly, kicking off her heels and heading for the stairs. "I'm exhausted. I'll see you in the morning, okay?" "Actually, Vanessa," I said, stopping her in her tracks. "We need to talk." She turned slowly, her smile faltering. "Can it wait? I'm really tired." "No," I said firmly. "It can't." I gestured to the couch. "Sit down." She sighed, clearly annoyed, and flopped onto the couch like a teenager being scolded. "What's this about, Ethan?" I stared at her for a moment, my heart pounding. "Are you cheating on me?" Her eyes widened, and for a split second, I saw a panic flash across her face. But she recovered quickly, laughing dismissively. "What? No." "What the hell, Ethan? Where is this coming from?" "Don't lie to me, Vanessa," I said, my voice low but dangerous. "I'm only going to ask you once. Are you cheating on me?" She stood up, crossing her arms defensively. "This is ridiculous. You're being paranoid. Just because I have a life outside of this house doesn't mean I'm cheating." "God, Ethan, do you even hear yourself?" I took out my phone, my hand trembling with a mix of rage and adrenaline. "I'm going to give you one more chance to tell me the truth," I said. "Because if you don't, I'm going to show you something that will destroy every lie you're about to tell." Her face turned pale, but she still tried to play it cool. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Okay," I said, pulling up the hidden camera footage and pressing play. I watched her face as the video started, as the front door opened and her lover walked in. Her expression shifted from confusion to horror to anger in the span of a few seconds. "What the fuck is this?" she snapped, her voice shaking. "It's you," I said coldly. "Bringing another man into my house. Kissing him. Fucking him on my couch." She lunged for my phone, but I pulled it out of her reach. "Don't even think about it," I said. "You don't get to destroy the evidence." For a moment, she just stood there, her mouth opening and closing like she didn't know what to say. Then she switched tactics. "It's not what it looks like," she said, her voice trembling. I laughed bitterly. "Not what it looks like. Vanessa, I watched the whole thing. I heard everything. Don't insult my intelligence." She tried again, tears welling up in her eyes. "It was a mistake, Ethan. I wasn't thinking. It didn't mean anything." "Didn't mean anything?" I repeated, my voice rising. "You brought him into our home. You lied to me again and again. How long has this been going on?" She didn't answer, so I pressed her. "How long, Vanessa?" 6 months, she whispered finally, her voice barely audible. 6 months. Half a year of lies, of betrayal, of watching me go about my life like an idiot while she laughed behind my back. I took a deep breath, trying to control the storm raging inside me. "Do you even feel guilty?" I asked. "Or are you just upset because you got caught?" "Of course I feel guilty," she snapped. "But maybe if you'd paid more attention to me, this wouldn't have happened." "You still here? Stunned. You're blaming me for your affair?" "I'm not saying it's your fault," she said, her voice defensive. "But you've been so checked out lately. You're always working or focused on the kids." I felt invisible. I shook my head, disgusted. "That's bullshit, Vanessa. I've been here, trying to make this marriage work, while you've been sneaking around like a selfish, entitled brat." She flinched but didn't argue. Instead, she crossed her arms and said, "What do you want me to say, Ethan? I screwed up. Is that what you want to hear?" I stared at her, the woman I'd loved for 15 years, and felt nothing but anger and betrayal. "No," I said finally. I don't want to hear anything from you. I want you out of this house. Her jaw dropped. You're kicking me out? Damn right I am, I said. You don't get to stay here after what you've done. Pack your things and go. She stared at me, tears streaming down her face, but I didn't care. Whatever pity I might have felt for her was gone, burned away by the image of her with that man in our living room. Fine, she said finally, her voice cold. But don't think this is over, Ethan. You're not as perfect as you think you are. I didn't respond. I just watched as she stormed upstairs, slamming the door behind her. Vanessa stayed in the guest room that night, slamming doors and muttering under her breath, but I didn't care. I stayed on the couch, staring at the ceiling, the events of the evening replaying in my mind like a twisted movie I couldn't turn off. My house, my marriage, my trust, it had all been violated. I wasn't just angry, I was furious. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized I couldn't just let her walk away with a few suitcases and a smug sense of victory. No, she had to face the consequences. The next morning, Vanessa came downstairs, looking like hell. Her eyes were puffy, her hair a mess, but she still had that defiant glint in her eye. I'm not leaving, she said, crossing her arms. I set my coffee mug down, staring her down. Oh, you're leaving, I said firmly. You can go to your lover's place, for all I care. But you're not staying here. You don't get to decide that, she snapped. This is my house too. Not for long, I shot back. I'm filing for divorce, Vanessa. And don't think for a second that you're getting anything out of this. I've got the footage, remember? Her face went pale, but she quickly recovered, narrowing her eyes at me. You wouldn't. Try me, I said, my voice cold. The rest of the day was tense. Vanessa stomped around the house, packing her things while muttering curses under her breath. I didn't engage. My mind was already working on the next steps. First, I called my lawyer. I explained everything, the affair, the hidden camera footage, the months of lies, and asked what my options were. He was blunt but helpful. With the evidence I had, I was in a strong position to take control of the divorce proceedings. Document everything, he said, and don't let her manipulate you. She's going to play every card she has to avoid taking responsibility. I took his advice to heart. Step 2 was contacting Vanessa's lover. I didn't want to confront him directly, at least not yet, but I wanted to know more about him. A quick internet search revealed everything I needed. His name was Connor, he was single, and he worked as a personal trainer at a nearby gym. I saved that information for later, knowing it would come in handy when the time was right. Then came step 3, ensuring Vanessa's actions had consequences outside of our marriage. She worked as an event coordinator for a local firm, and I knew they valued their image above all else. I had no intention of dragging her career through the mud unnecessarily, but if she tried to take me down with her, I wasn't above using the footage as leverage. I wasn't going to let her win. Not this time. That night, Vanessa came back downstairs, dragging a suitcase behind her. I'm going to stay with a friend, she said, her tone clipped. But don't think this is over, Ethan. You don't get to play the victim when you've been neglecting me for years. I laughed bitterly. Neglecting you? Vanessa, I've been working my ass off to provide for this family while you've been screwing around behind my back. Save your excuses. I don't want to hear them. She glared at me, but didn't argue. Instead, she grabbed her purse and walked out the door without another word. As I watched her car disappear down the street, a strange sense of calm washed over me. The worst was over, or so I thought. But this was just the beginning. After Vanessa left, the house felt eerily quiet. It wasn't the comforting silence I once enjoyed after a long day. It was the kind of silence that screamed of betrayal, of broken trust. But beneath the pain and anger, a steely resolve began to form. Vanessa thought she could cheat, lie, and walk away without consequences. She was about to learn just how wrong she was. Step 1 in my revenge plan was to ensure I stayed in control of the divorce. With the evidence I had, there was no way Vanessa could play the victim or try to take half of everything I'd worked so hard for. My lawyer and I prepared a brutal case. The hidden camera footage, the discrepancies in her financial contributions to our household, and even receipts for some of the lingerie and dinners I now knew had been for him. But that wasn't enough. I didn't just want to win the divorce. I wanted to expose Vanessa for the selfish, manipulative person she truly was. Step 2 involved Connor. After finding out where he worked, I decided to pay a visit to his gym. Not to confront him directly, yet, but to gather more intel. I walked in, acting like I was interested in signing up, and it didn't take long to spot him. He was exactly what I expected, tall, muscular, and oozing that fake charm that probably made Vanessa weak in the knees. I watched him flirt shamelessly with his female clients, his hands lingering a little too long as he helped them with their form. It was nauseating. "Connor seems popular," I said to the receptionist casually as I signed a fake waiver. She rolled her eyes. "Oh, he's very popular," she said, the sarcasm in her voice unmistakable. "But he's a great trainer." Great trainer or not, I could see the cracks in his polished exterior. It was clear he thrived on attention, and I knew exactly how to use that against him. Step 3 was leveraging the footage. Vanessa had no idea I'd backed up the recordings to multiple secure locations. She thought she could intimidate me into keeping quiet, but she underestimated how far I was willing to go. I started by sending an anonymous email to Connor. Subject line, "You've been caught." Body, "Ikuno. I'm sure you're very proud of yourself for what you've been doing with Vanessa. But just so you know, I have everything on camera. You brought this into my house, and now you're going to face the consequences. Ethan." I didn't include the footage yet. I wanted to see how he'd react. Sure enough, within an hour, my phone buzzed with a response. "Connor, Ethan, let's not do anything crazy here. This doesn't have to get ugly. Let me know what you want, and we can work this out." His desperation was almost laughable, but I wasn't done with him yet. Step 4 was preparing Vanessa's public downfall. I knew she valued her reputation more than anything else, and the idea of being exposed as a cheating wife would terrify her. I compiled a list of people she cared about, friends, co-workers, even our kids' teachers, and drafted a letter explaining her betrayal in cold, brutal detail. Draft letter. "To whom it may concern, I feel it's only fair to inform you about Vanessa's recent actions. For months, she has been having an affair with a man she brought into our home, violating our marriage and our family. I have indisputable evidence, including footage, to back up these claims. This is not a decision I take lightly, but Vanessa's actions have left me with no choice. I believe those in her life deserve to know the truth. Sincerely, Ethan." I didn't send the letters yet. This was my trump card, something to hold over her head if she dared to challenge me. That night, I sat in the living room, sipping whiskey and watching the footage again. It hurt like hell, but it also fueled my determination. Vanessa thought she could walk all over me, but she was about to find out just how wrong she was. With everything in place, I decided it was time to start putting my plan into action. Vanessa and Connor had crossed the line, and I wasn't just going to let them off the hook. They thought they were untouchable, but they had no idea what was coming. The first step was sending Connor a second email. This time, I attached a short, cropped clip from the hidden camera footage, just enough to make him sweat. Subject line, "Your new workout routine?" Body, "Hey Connor, here's a preview of what I've got on you. You brought this on yourself. I'm giving you one chance to end this quietly before I start sharing this with your clients, gym management, and anyone else who might care about your professional reputation." Ethan. I didn't have to wait long for his reply. "Connor, Ethan, Jesus man, let's talk about this. Can we meet somewhere and figure this out? Please don't ruin my life over this." I couldn't help but smirk. For a guy who strutted around like he owned the world, Connor was panicking fast. But I wasn't done yet. Next, I turned my attention to Vanessa. She had been staying with a friend, or so she claimed. I wouldn't have been surprised if she was actually with Connor. She texted me sporadically, asking about logistics, like when she could come by to get more of her things. That gave me an idea. I decided to let her come back to the house, but not before preparing the ultimate humiliation. I printed out screenshots from the footage, stills of her kissing Connor, undressing him, and getting way too comfortable on our couch. I taped them to the walls of the living room, the hallway, and even the bedroom. When Vanessa showed up, suitcase in hand, her jaw dropped the moment she stepped inside. "What the hell is this?" she screeched, yanking one of the pictures off the wall. "Just thought you'd like to see what you've been up to," I said, my tone ice cold. Her face turned bright red. Ethan, this is insane. You can't just... Oh, I can, I said, cutting her off. And I will. If you thought I was going to let you walk away from this unscathed, you clearly don't know me as well as you think. She tore down another picture, her hands trembling. This is harassment. No, Vanessa, I said, stepping closer. This is justice. You don't get to play the victim here. Not after what you've done. The confrontation escalated quickly. She tried to argue, to guilt me into backing down, but I didn't budge. Do you know what people will think if you spread this around? She hissed. What it'll do to the kids. To us. You should have thought about that before you brought him into our house, I snapped. Everything that happens from here is on you. After she stormed out, I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and exhaustion. It wasn't enough. Not yet, but it was a start. Connor, meanwhile, was starting to crack. He called me the next day, practically begging to meet in person. I agreed, arranging to meet him at a coffee shop near his gym. When I walked in, Connor looked like a shadow of the cocky guy I'd seen flirting with clients. His face was pale, and his hands were shaking as he stirred his coffee. Ethan, he started, his voice unsteady. Look, man, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for things to go this far. It was a mistake. Mistake? I said, leaning back in my chair. You're calling 6 months of screwing my wife a mistake. He swallowed hard, clearly realizing he wasn't going to talk his way out of this. What do you want from me? I smiled, enjoying the sight of him squirming. I want you to quit your job. Today. And I want you to end things with Vanessa. Permanently. His jaw dropped. Quit my job? Are you serious? Dead serious, I said. If you don't, I'll send the footage to your clients, your boss, and everyone else you've ever worked with. How do you think that'll go over? He looked like he was about to protest, but then thought better of it. Fine, he muttered. I'll do it. That evening, I got a text from Vanessa. Vanessa, what the hell did you say to Connor? He just broke up with me and quit his job. This is low. Even for you, Ethan. I didn't bother replying. Let her stew in her mess. Connor followed through on his promise. By the next morning, his social media accounts were deactivated, and the gym had scrubbed his name from their website. He was gone just like that. But I knew Vanessa wouldn't take it lying down, and sure enough, my phone rang that afternoon. Ethan, she snarled, skipping the pleasantries. What did you do to Connor? I leaned back in my chair, savoring the moment. Me? I just showed him the consequences of his actions. Something you both should have considered before dragging me into this. You're pathetic, she hissed. You think this makes you look strong? You're just proving how petty you are. Petty? I laughed coldly. You betrayed me, Vanessa. You lied, cheated, and disrespected me in ways I didn't even think were possible. This isn't petty, it's justice. You're ruining my life, she snapped, her voice trembling with anger. No, Vanessa, I said, my tone sharp. You ruined your life. I'm just making sure you face the consequences. After I hung up, I turned my attention to the next phase of my plan. I'd been holding off on sending the letters to Vanessa's co-workers and acquaintances, but now felt like the perfect time to pull the trigger. I drafted an email to her boss, attaching a few choice screenshots of the footage and a brief explanation of her actions. Subject line, urgent. Regarding Vanessa's professional conduct. Body. Dear Mr. Jones, I regret to inform you about an issue that may affect your company's reputation. Over the past several months, my wife, Vanessa, has been engaging in an extramarital affair that involved bringing her lover into our home during work hours. I have attached evidence to corroborate this. I felt it was my duty to inform you, as her actions reflect poorly on her character and judgment. Sincerely, Ethan. The next morning, Vanessa called me again, her voice frantic. You sent an email to my boss? Are you out of your mind? I warned you, Vanessa, I said calmly. This is what happens when you disrespect me, our family, and everything we built. They're putting me on probation, she cried. Do you realize what you've done? I could lose my job. Good, I said bluntly. You should have thought about that before you brought Connor into our house. But I wasn't done. Vanessa cared deeply about appearances, her image, her reputation among her friends, her social standing. So, I decided to hit her where it hurt most. I posted a message in the Facebook group for the PDA, the one Vanessa always loved bragging about being a part of. It was a simple post, accompanied by a blurred still of her and Connor on the couch. Post. Hi, everyone. I know this isn't the kind of thing we usually discuss here, but I thought it was important to share some context about why my wife, Vanessa, will no longer be attending PDA meetings. Over the past 6 months, she's been carrying on an affair with a man she brought into our home. I'm not looking for sympathy, just transparency. If anyone wants to know more, feel free to reach out privately. The fallout was immediate. My phone buzzed nonstop with messages from parents and acquaintances. Some were supportive, expressing shock and offering their condolences. Others were blunt, calling Vanessa's actions disgusting and selfish. That evening, Vanessa showed up at the house unannounced. She was livid, her face flushed with rage. "What the hell is wrong with you, Ethan?" she yelled. "Do you have any idea what you've done? People are calling me a homewrecker." "Maybe because that's exactly what you are," I said, standing my ground. "This is harassment," she screamed. "You're trying to destroy me." "No, Vanessa," I said evenly. "I'm just making sure the truth comes out. You destroyed yourself." She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. For a moment, I felt a pang of guilt, but it quickly passed. Vanessa had spent months treating me like a fool, disrespecting me, and betraying everything we'd built together. She didn't deserve my sympathy. Vanessa's public humiliation was spreading like wildfire. The PDA post had done exactly what I wanted. It put her betrayal out in the open, stripping away the carefully curated image she'd spent years building. But that was just the beginning. I wasn't satisfied yet, not by a long shot. The next phase of my plan was about dismantling the life Vanessa thought she could still salvage. While I'd already sent the footage to her boss, I decided to go a step further. I contacted a few of her closest friends, women she regularly gossiped with, the ones who always seemed to hang on her every word at brunch. I didn't approach them with anger or malice. Instead, I played the concerned, betrayed husband. Texted her friend Clara. "Clara, I hate to bring this up, but I think you deserve to know the truth about Vanessa. She's been having an affair for months, and I have proof. I feel like I've been living a lie, and I just needed someone to talk to who knows her." I attached a cropped screenshot from the footage, making sure Vanessa was clearly identifiable but not graphic enough to make it seem like I was being vindictive. Clara's response came within minutes. "Clara, Ethan, I'm so sorry to hear this. I had no idea. I can't believe Vanessa would do something like this." I repeated the process with 2 more of her friends, all of whom expressed similar shock and disgust. Word spread quickly, and by the end of the day, Vanessa was texting me nonstop. "Vanessa, what the hell is wrong with you? You're telling my friends? Are you trying to ruin my life?" I didn't reply. Let her sweat. That night, I received a call from Amanda, the same friend Vanessa had lied about meeting on her girls' night. "Ethan, it's Amanda," she said hesitantly. "I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. I had no idea Vanessa was using my name as an excuse for her affair. I feel terrible." "It's not your fault, Amanda," I said. "But thank you for letting me know. I just wanted the truth to come out." "Well, it's definitely out," she said. "Everyone's talking about it." The cherry on top came a few days later when Connor made the mistake of trying to reach out to Vanessa again. Apparently, he hadn't learned his lesson, because Vanessa called me in a fury after he showed up at her new apartment unannounced. "This is your fault," she screamed into the phone. "You've turned my life into a circus." Connor showed up crying, saying he can't find work because of you. I chuckled darkly. "Good. Maybe you should have thought about that before sleeping with another man's wife." "You're insane," she spat. "Do you think this makes you look like the bigger person? You're just as toxic as you claim I am." "Maybe," I said, my tone cold. "But at least I'm not a liar and a cheater." The best part was Vanessa was unraveling publicly while I was building myself back up. Friends and neighbors who once idolized her were now avoiding her. She'd lost her job after her boss decided she was too much of a liability, and even her own family was starting to distance themselves. Meanwhile, I was regaining control of my life. The divorce proceedings were in full swing, and with the evidence I had, Vanessa had no room to negotiate. She knew she was going to lose everything. One evening, I sat in my living room, sipping whiskey and scrolling through my messages. I received one from Clara. "Clara, Ethan, I just wanted to say you're handling this better than most people would. Vanessa doesn't deserve your kindness, but you've shown a lot of strength. I didn't reply. Kindness? Maybe not. But strength? That I could agree with. By the time the divorce proceedings were in full swing, Vanessa was a shell of the confident, manipulative woman she'd once been. Her friends had turned on her job was gone, and her lover, Connor, had all but vanished after losing everything. But for me, it wasn't enough. Not yet. Vanessa had spent months disrespecting me, lying to me, and tearing apart our family. I wanted her to feel the weight of everything she'd done. It was time for the final blow. Vanessa still hadn't grasped the depth of my determination. She was convinced I wouldn't go as far as I was about to, despite everything I'd already done. But that only made my next move all the sweeter. Step one was publicizing the footage. Until now, I'd only shared it strategically with her boss, her closest friends, and a few key players in her social circle. But I had a larger audience in mind, the local community. I created a burner account on Facebook, complete with a fake profile picture and an innocuous name. Then I posted a video compilation of the hidden camera footage, carefully edited to blur any sensitive areas, but clear enough to leave no doubt about who was involved. Post caption: sometimes the truth needs to come out. This is what happens when you betray your family and disrespect your marriage. I made sure to post it in a few local groups where Vanessa was well known. The neighborhood association, a community page for parents, even a group for her former co-workers. The reaction was instant and explosive. Comments flooded in, ranging from shocked disbelief to outright disgust. Comment 1. Wait, isn't this Vanessa? I can't believe she'd do something like this. Comment 2. Cheating is bad enough, but in your own house? That's disgusting. Comment 3. Her poor husband. I hope he takes her for everything she's worth. Within hours, the video had been shared dozens of times, and Vanessa's phone must have been blowing up. She called me repeatedly, but I let every call go to voicemail. She sent me a flurry of texts, each more frantic than the last. Vanessa, Ethan, what the fuck is wrong with you? Take it down now. Vanessa, do you realize what you've done? My parents saw this. My entire family is furious. Vanessa, this is harassment. I'll sue you for this. I didn't bother responding. She could threaten all she wanted, but she knew as well as I did that she didn't have a leg to stand on. Step 2 was ensuring the divorce settlement went entirely in my favor. With the footage and a mountain of evidence on my side, my lawyer was confident we could secure a deal that left Vanessa with nothing. Sure enough, when we walked into mediation, her lawyer looked like he'd already given up. We're not going to fight this, her lawyer said after reviewing the evidence. What are your terms? My terms were simple. I got the house, the majority of our savings, and full custody of our kids, who were old enough to understand what their mother had done. Vanessa was left with little more than her clothes and a battered reputation. She didn't even try to argue. For the first time, she seemed to understand the depth of her mistakes. The final step of my plan wasn't about revenge. It was about closure. I knew I'd already destroyed Vanessa's carefully constructed facade, and I didn't want to spend the rest of my life dwelling on her betrayal. I printed a single picture from the hidden camera footage, one of Vanessa and Connor laughing together on my couch. I framed it and left it in the house, a silent reminder of the life she'd thrown away. Then I packed my things and moved to a new place, a fresh start, free from the shadows of her betrayal. As for Vanessa, I heard through the grapevine that she'd moved in with a distant cousin, her pride shattered and her social life in ruins. Connor? He disappeared entirely, no doubt licking his wounds in some other town. And me? I was finally free. In the days and weeks following Vanessa's downfall, I felt an odd mix of emotions: relief, satisfaction, and a lingering sadness. Relief because the nightmare of our marriage was finally over. Satisfaction because I'd stood up for myself and ensured she faced the consequences of her actions. And sadness because, despite everything, we'd once shared a life together. But any regret I felt was fleeting. Vanessa had made her choices, and she'd done so without regard for me, our family, or the trust we'd built over the years. She'd thrown it all away for some fleeting thrill, and now she was reaping what she'd sown. I stayed busy in the aftermath. Moving into my new place gave me something to focus on, something to build that felt entirely mine. I decorated it the way I wanted, filled it with things that brought me joy, and left no room for the ghosts of my past. The kids were adjusting well, too. They were old enough to understand the truth, and while they didn't say much, I could tell they were disappointed in their mother. Vanessa tried to reach out to them a few times, but they weren't interested. "She'll have to earn our trust back," my daughter said bluntly. If that's even possible. The fallout from the Facebook video continued to ripple through our community. People who once fawned over Vanessa now avoided her like the plague. Her friends had all but abandoned her, and I heard through mutual acquaintances that her family was furious about the shame she'd brought upon them. Vanessa called me once, weeks after the divorce was finalized. I considered ignoring it but decided to answer, if only to see what she had to say. "Ethan," she said, her voice hesitant. I wanted to say I'm sorry." I didn't respond, letting the silence stretch out until she spoke again. "I know I messed up," she continued. "I know I hurt you, the kids, everyone. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I wanted you to know that I regret everything." "You should," I said simply. "But regret doesn't undo what you did. It doesn't fix anything." "I know," she whispered. I hope one day you can move on." "I already have," I said, my voice steady. "Goodbye, Vanessa." I hung up and blocked her number. The call was the last piece of closure I needed. It wasn't an apology that healed me. It was the knowledge that I'd taken back control of my life. Vanessa no longer had power over me, and she never would again. As time passed, I began to focus on myself in ways I hadn't in years. I picked up hobbies I'd neglected, reconnected with old friends, and even started dating again. At first, it felt strange, letting someone new into my life after everything I'd been through. But slowly, I began to trust again. I wasn't looking for anything serious, just companionship. And for the first time in years, I felt truly free. Free to be myself, free to set boundaries, and free to walk away from anything or anyone who didn't respect me. If there's one thing I've learned from this experience, it's this: betrayal doesn't define you. It's painful, yes, but it's also an opportunity to grow, to rediscover yourself, and to rebuild a life that's stronger and more authentic than the one you left behind. Looking back, it's almost surreal how much my life has changed in such a short period of time. The man I was when I discovered Vanessa's betrayal feels like a stranger now, someone naive, trusting to a fault, and blind to the cracks forming in his own marriage. But I don't regret what happened. If anything, I'm grateful for the lessons it taught me. Betrayal has a way of stripping everything down to its core. It forces you to face truths you'd rather ignore and confront parts of yourself you didn't even know were there. For me, it revealed a strength I never thought I had, the strength to stand up for myself, to demand respect, and to walk away from something that no longer served me. But it also taught me the importance of boundaries. I'd spent years bending over backward for Vanessa, putting her needs above my own, ignoring the warning signs because I didn't want to rock the boat. Never again. The life I'm building now is one where my boundaries are firm, my self-respect is non-negotiable, and my happiness comes first. Revenge, while satisfying in the moment, wasn't the real victory. The real victory was reclaiming my life, proving to myself that I could survive the worst and come out stronger on the other side. Watching Vanessa's carefully constructed world crumble felt good, sure. But what feels even better is knowing that I've moved on, that I've built something she can never touch. The new Ethan is someone I'm proud of. I've found peace in my solitude, joy in new experiences, and confidence in the knowledge that I don't need anyone else to complete me. Relationships will come and go, but the foundation I've built for myself is rock solid. To anyone reading this who's going through something similar, here's my advice. Don't let someone else's betrayal define you. It's not your fault, and it doesn't mean you're unworthy of love or respect. Take the time to grieve, but don't get stuck there. Use the pain as fuel to rebuild, to rediscover yourself, and to create a life that makes you proud. As for Vanessa, I don't think about her much anymore. Last I heard, she was still trying to pick up the pieces of her shattered reputation. But that's not my concern. Her chapter in my life is closed, and I have no intention of reopening it. I'm excited about the future, about the man I'm becoming and the life I'm creating. Betrayal didn't break me. It set me free. Thanks for listening. If my story helps even one person realize their own strength, then it was worth sharing. Stay strong. And remember, sometimes the hardest endings lead to